She just be modest with the one time.
I think looking forward to it. Yeah, and always say hello for me, please. Okay, just morning service.
Good morning, sir.
Oh, how are you?
All right, and you?
Very welcome.
Good to see you.
I want this to look like that.
I want to see you online.
Margaret used to work for Margaret's Margaret wasn't We were in the same I know, I'm not in ministry. But are you still in my rep? Are you still there? gonna run through just to say he's not sure if he'll make it because he's not feeling well. My phone is I'm gonna take me call So I'm going to ask, I'm gonna talk to them and then let you know.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, we are just about to start. Good morning to our specially invited guests. Ladies and gentlemen, it's so very nice to have you here today, and welcome to the launch of the third edition, that's the manual and questionnaire, of the book entitled Before This Very Special Occasion. It is which can be filled with challenges. And this is where the wisdom shared in this featured book comes into play. Premarital counseling is not only about addressing potential pitfalls, but also about fostering communication, enhancing understanding, and building a firm foundation for a lifetime. The strategies and the insights found within the pages of this book will enable the counselor to advise couples as to how to face these challenges and how to celebrate their unique journey together. I have read the book and I found it most interesting. I was particularly drawn to the section which dealt with marrying for the wrong reasons. I read that over and over. And one of the examples given is marriage should not be like a business transaction. And when I read it, it reminded me about the story of a young farmer who placed in the press an advertisement for a wife. Yeah, he advertised for a wife. And the ad read, "Virile young man who owns the ad that says, when applying, please enclose a picture of the tractor." Then there is this young lady who said to her fiancé, "I believe you want to marry me because you heard that my father left me a fortune." And her fiancé says, "No, that's not true. I would marry you regardless of who left you the fortune." So, ladies and gentlemen, who share a common Brendan Bain, who is the founding director of Family Life Ministries and the first chairman of Family Life Ministries, to opening prayer for us. Professor Bain.
Thank you, Winston. Hello to everyone. Prayer to the Lord is a privilege, and I just want to say a short prayer as we continue this morning. Heavenly Father, we do thank you for the privilege of prayer, and we just ask your blessing on every aspect of this program today. We thank you for this book. We thank you for Barry and the persons who have accompanied him in revising the book, and we pray that you'll continue to bless them, this ministry, effective.
Thank you, Prof. Bain. Now, I come to a section on the program called Remarks. And this morning we have three very distinguished persons who will share their thoughts with respect to today's book launch and about the author of the book, Dr. Barry Davison. Firstly, we have Mrs. Monique Morris. Mrs. Morris is the Manager, Civil Registration and Vital Statistics of the Registrar General Department of Spanish Town, in Spanish Town. Ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Monique Morris.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
And let me say thank you to Family Life Ministries, Dr. Davidson and Dr. Pinckney for the invitation. And let me say I'm by no means an expert on the topic, but I'm going to give you a little about the RGD and give you a little snippet of some statistics that might be relevant to the topic. And let me say congratulations again for the book launch. I think this, based on, I haven't read it yet, but based on the topic, I think this is well needed in Jamaica at this time, and I hope that it will be well distributed. So just to introduce you to the RGD, we were established in 1879 with the mandate of ensuring that every civil office, which is a branch of the RGD, which is entrusted with recording and safekeeping of deeds such as depots, powers of attorney, conveyances, and wills. In 1999, the entity was accorded executive status agency, and we are one of the 4 entities at that time. And in 2007, we were given Type C status, which means that we would fund our entire operations from our revenue. Some of the services of certificate were, as of 2007, every baby born status, late entry, correction of error. We also went in the court as to the paternity of a child, we will update the birth record. We also offer genealogical, the outer many research. So if you're interested in your genealogical roots, we offer registry weddings also at all our locations island-wide. And as I said, we record and authenticate wills, deeds, and conveyances, as well as offer burial verification. The current Chief Executive Officer is Mr. Desmond Davis, and the Chief Justice is Mr. Brian Sykes, which is the keeper of the record. Saying about between 20,000, but it has been on the decline. So currently in front of me, I have from 2008 to 2023. So in 2008, the total marriages was 22,152. It continued to decrease. So in the following years, 21,000, 20,000. For the next 3 years, dipped to 19,000, 18,000. By 2016, it was 17,609. Went up a little, and then in 2018, dropped to 16,960. Dropped again a little in 2019. Of course, 2020, which was COVID-19, it fell drastically, so we only had 10,719 based on, of course, the restrictions in movement and so on. It recovered a little in 2021 to 13,663, then went to 15,000, little about 15,000, and in 2023, 14,167. So you can see that the trend is that marriages are declining. Of course, these are not rates, but just numbers. And another thing I should tell you is that the totals that I gave you is not for Jamaicans only. As you're aware, we have a thriving hotel industry. So about 50% of these marriages are for foreign nationals. So the picture is even
50%?
Approximately. So yes, the hotels do a very good business for marriages. So these marriages that I'm telling you comprise of hotel marriages as well. Yes, I hear some oh no's. So you have some work to do. I don't envy. But I think it is important and rewarding work that you have to do. So on the flip side, some divorce statistics. The divorces fluctuated. So I have in 2011, 1,960 went up. And of course, I must point out that the numbers will also be affected by, I would say, the operations. So if it is easy to get a divorce or hard to get a divorce, so it may be affected by that. So it went up to 2,490, remained steady, and in 2014 dropped to 1,744. It then began to rise in 2016 to 2,100, 2,882, 3,402, climbed to 3,572 in 2019. Of course, Corona as well, big drop to 2,171. Then in 2021, 3,483, and then 3,187. But in general, it's on the increase in general. So that's another troubling statistic. Right. Just to give you an idea, question: how many marriage officers do we have here? No marriage officers, but you're all pastors. Some. All right. I was told that we would have some pastors here. So just to give you some information, I'm assuming that you may be interested in becoming a marriage officer or a civil registrar, because if you're not a minister of religion, you can become a civil registrar and perform the rites of marriage. So if you're a minister of religion and you're acting for a congregation, or you have a local superintendent of several congregations, you can apply to become a marriage officer. If not, you can apply to become a civil registrar, and you will generally have to have an office from which you will operate from. So let me give you the required documents for application. The application letter must be in your own and submitted to the Registrar General, along with your resume, proof of identity, which is a valid, any change of name document such as deed poll or marriage certificate, ordination certificate, or if you're from a non-attached church, certificate of registration of incorporation, police record, as well as 3 recommendations. And for the marriage officers, we ask that the recommendations come from 2 active marriage officers and from the head of your denomination. Other considerations: we want your handwriting to be as clear and legible as possible, right? Because we don't reach electronic registration as yet, so we're asking you to have good quality handwriting. You should be residing in the island for a year or more, and we have an age recommendation between 25 and 65 years old. So once you apply, we usually assess the application. You're invited to sit an assessment test, and you're tested based on the Marriage Act and the regulations. When you're successful in that test, we then recommend you for investigation at the police commissioner's office. So the police from your community would come, visit your church, ask you some questions. And the police recommendation, if favorable, we would then recommend you to the office of the Prime Minister for appointment and gazetting. And then we would then train you and give you your forms and documents to become a marriage officer. All right, so that's my presentation. I'm not sure if you want me to take any questions or that's it. All right, so thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mrs. Morris. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to announce the arrival of Lady Allen, the wife of our Governor General, Sir Patrick Allen. Sorry, you can all be seated. I heard I have this information. She does not yet arrived. So she's on her way. Okay. Mrs. Morris, thank you for those statements and those statistics that you gave us. Troubling. It says that marriages are on the decrease, while divorces are on the increase. That's not very troubling statistics. And I listened to your presentation, and I didn't know that the RGD dealt with genealogy. We can trace it, what we call finding your roots. For example, a man who spent $10,000 to discover his roots, and when he found them, he spent $100,000 to cover them up again. Next,
everybody. I don't know if I can manage to be here this morning. Years in June. So I want to thank you, just to give a message to society here, and I want to recognize them. The media. Warm greetings from the President, and by extension, the executive members. The launch of the 3rd edition of Before They Say I Do, a resource that has been a guiding light for couples preparing for that guides are not just about their foundation. Marriage is it is a building block of communities, the framework that nurtures children, and the pillar of a stable society. Resilience, thrive. This is why the work of Dr. Barry Davidson is so critical. Through Before They Say I Do, he has provided couples with the tools to prepare for not just a wedding day, but a lifetime of partnership. This book is more than a manual. It's an investment in the future of our families and by extension, the future of Jamaica. With this third edition, Dr. Davidson continues to equip individuals with the wisdom and understanding necessary for building relationships that endure. The challenges facing marriages today may be evolving, but the principles of love, communication, and commitment remains timeless. As we officially launch this edition, let us recognize that every strong marriage contributes to Vision 2030. Every couple that takes the time to prepare to build their relationship on a foundation of trust and understanding is actively shaping a better Jamaica, one home, one family at a time. Dr. Davidson, we celebrate you and your unwavering dedication to strengthening marriages and families. May this book continue to touch lives, inspire lasting unions, and reinforce the values that will make Jamaica the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business. Congratulations, and may God continue to bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Barnett. Indeed, as you say, strong marriages leads to strong families. And that's what we really need in our country. Next, we have Dr. Nadine Williams. Dr. Nadine Williams. Dr. Williams is Director of Health Services Planning and Integration of the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Dr. Williams.
Morning, everyone. Such a pleasure to be here this morning. It's such an important occasion. Mr. Master of Ceremonies, Mr. Winston Bennett, Board Chairman and Board Directors, Dr. Barry Davidson, Chief Executive Officer, Family Life Ministries Executives and Staff, Reverend Stephen Jennings, Mrs. Monique Morris, Registrar General's Department, Dr. Margaret Barrett, Jamaica Psychological Society, Prof. Brendan Bain, and his wife Pauline. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I know that we are all members of the media. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I am pleased to join you for this official launch of this publication. I offer apologies on behalf of the Minister of Health and Wellness, the Honourable Christopher Tufton, Member of Parliament, who could not be here, Barrington Davidson, who along with the team at Family Life Ministries remains a strong partner of the Ministry of Health and Wellness. As we deliver on our promise to lead the national effort to promote and protect the rights of every Jamaican to access healthcare services that support their optimal health and well-being, organization, physical, mental, and social well-being. It is for this reason why our ministry added wellness to its name, all to highlight the key dimensions of the wellness approach, including not only the physical, mental, and environmental, financial, intellectual, notes that numerous studies conducted over the past 150 years suggest that marriage is good for health. Notes that numerous studies conducted over the past 150 years suggest that marriage is good for health. More recently, scientists have begun to understand why married men enjoy better health than their single, divorced, and widowed peers. I bet you some of you didn't know that. The well-established links between stress, depression, social isolation, and heart disease make it easy to see how a good marriage might protect the heart. The medical school also notes that although the data are sparse, marriage appears to have a positive effect on a variety of health outcomes. Mental health is the most on a variety of health outcomes. Mental health is the most prominent. Married men have a lower risk of depression and a higher likelihood of satisfaction with life in retirement than their unmarried peers. Being married has also been linked to better cognitive function, a reduced risk of Alzheimer's disease, improved blood sugar levels, and better outcomes for hospitalized patients. It sounds as if some people are making new plans. Good family life also fosters good health, as married couples and families can keep each other accountable and help stem the high incidence of non-communicable diseases. In 2020, NCD's non-communicable diseases were the cause of death for almost 8 out of 10 deaths that year, that's 77%. With a high mortality due to non-communicable diseases and an aging population, Jamaica is at risk of experiencing high cost to provide healthcare services and a significant increase in potential years of life lost. In 2020, NCD deaths resulted in the loss of 144,853 years of potential life lost, indicating a 30% rise in potential years of life lost compared to the previous 3,775 years lost per year over a course of a decade. The rate of increase in potential years of life lost among individuals who died from NCDs exceeded that of all causes, with NCD showing a 30% increase compared to 19% for all causes. Ladies and gentlemen, to perform self-care, you need physical skills, cognitive function, and an awareness of how psychological factors affect self-care. This is where programs and initiatives such as One Jamaica Moves can play an integral part, and several other programs and initiatives. In the end, the fundamental of good health and wellness is firstly taking personal responsibility. This book greatly sets the tone and pace for good family health, which is good for our productivity and living fulfilling lives. Again, our congratulations to Dr. Eva Davidson and the team. We look forward to our continued collaboration and partnership as we all seek out the best health outcomes for all Jamaicans. Congratulations on this 3rd edition, and thank you for your continued collaboration and partnership. And congratulations to the Family Life Ministries as a beaming example of what a good organization is. All the very best, and thank you.
I love that whole stretch of statistics that you rolled out, you know. Particularly one about married men having better health than single men and divorcees and so on. I would love to get that list, because if I give my wife, I'm sure she's going to frame it and hang it up in my study and bedroom and so on. And it's really coming from not the statistics that come up with that. It's great hearing that. And we now move on to a section of our program entitled Testimonials. While growing up, I just love to hear testimonies, because they're often told stories of how someone is satisfied by something that impacted their life, They also provide unique real-life insights to the benefits, some testimonies at this time. And the first testimonial is going to be from Mr. Ethan Gabadon and Dr. Christine Gabadon. And interestingly, they are the second couple who engaged in premarital counseling with Dr. Davison using the manual and the questionnaire. I understand that the first couple was Reverend Dr. Sam Bassons, have been married for 42 years. Let's hear it from Mr. Ethan Gabadon and Dr. Christine Gabadon.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Dr. Davidson, distinguished guests, and all blessings and salutations, and to tell you some stories that we have passed through. But I will only be here for 5 minutes. In with a little of Dr. Barry Davidson's past, quickly to say to you that he has always had an open house. From the 80s and the 70s, he had an open house where young people could come together and gel and talk and have Christmas food and preparations and all kinds of stuff. I'm wondering if he was putting the couples together from then. But he always had an open house, and he has continued to be in that stance and putting people together. And I just want to say, Barry, you have been consistent throughout your life. To get to us now, let's go on. So I met Christine under some marriage circumstances. A friend of hers was getting married, and so they asked me, her friend who worked in Montego Bay with me at the time, asked me to do some singing. And so I came up to join this group, and there on the piano was a little miss, who I thought was about 16, 17. So I went across and said, well, you're doing very well, young lady, very well. I really was belittling her a bit, and she, after a while, put me straight, lined me up. Said, so and so and so and so. And I started taking a different look at her. And then she walked across the room, and then I said, oh. So that's really how I met my wife. So we got, we were preparing for this other wedding, doing rehearsals. Never got to sing because I had to run to Cayman about some machines. But as soon as I got back, I made contact, and we started working on singing. Getting ready to meet a man like Dr. Davis with his new book. We didn't even know about the book at the time. But leading up to that, I think I met up with Barry at some stage and heard of his new developments, and we were invited to, come and see what this is all about. It's preparation for a lifetime together. And so we went, and we picked up a lot of stuff. There was a lot of teaching. What stands out, and I actually wanted to highlight this, was the unmasking feature that he spoke about. And that was to get us to be ourselves and to, open our minds to new concepts and just be really who you are with each other. Now, I'm not sure my wife has been happy about that, but after 42 years, we're still together and having discussions, some of them lovely and some firm discussions. But together, we continue building life. And we have some proof. We have a few children to show that we have had happy times. So I just want to say Dr. Barry did a very good job, and with 2 books later, this is the 3rd book coming out now, we know that this is something we who are here must continue to promote and to ensure that it spreads out there. We heard the statistics and that things are falling off. We want to encourage young people to be married and to put families together. And so I hand over to Christine to continue the more thoughtful process.
Hi again, hi everybody. Hi Dr. Barry and Mrs. Bev and everybody. So just to fill in a little, we're very proud because we were the 2nd couple to be officially counseled by Barry, and our son Stephen, who is our 2nd son, was the one who brought him out of retirement for he had stopped doing some premarital counseling, and Stephen convinced him. And Stephen got married fairly young for these times. He was like 25, and they're still married. So, and then our 2nd son, also, Barry was able to counsel him. He's married almost 4 years. Stephen is about maybe 10. I can't remember. Yeah, praying for our daughter. She's waiting on her own. And I'm hoping that when that time comes, Dr. Barry will be available. Because just my personal observation, some young people are not getting married much in their 20s, which we were in our 20s when we got married. Things have changed, the whole society has changed, but we're just so blessed that we were able to be counseled by Barry. It wasn't like there were no problems. We had to overcome challenges, different ones. Barry knows about some, but in the end, it's a commitment that really makes a difference. And what helps is having a common goal, a common faith. Yeah. Because when I was getting married, and I think about it, I only had one criteria, that the person should be a Christian. I didn't fill in all the details, how they must look and all of that. And I thought that was it. When we started having, every couple has their challenges. I said, boy, maybe I should have put in some more prayers. But overall, we are blessed. We had jet black hair when we got married. Well, mine, I can do things with it. We are so blessed, and we just want to say thank you, Barry, and that you have really blessed us and blessed our marriage, our children, and looking forward to your next book.
Thank you so much. You see why I like testimonies? Oh, there's an extra mic up here. I just love testimonies. Ita and I listen to you, and there is so much in common. When I met my wife, there was a little young people social at Arden Hall, and they were playing musical chairs. And guess what? She was playing the piano for the music. And I get caught out every time because I wasn't listening to the music. I was watching the pianist. I like that. I like how you talk about this hair was black then, you know? Like the lady who says, honey, you say you love me now, but will you love me when I'm older and my hair is all gray? Indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, our next testimonial is from Dr. Daniel Abadance. You spoke about your second son. Is that really a sort of second generation of beneficiaries of premarital counseling by Dr. Davison and Faith Thomas, who were one of the earlier couples to engage premarital counseling with Dr. Davison. And so in a real way, Dr. Daniel Thomas and his brother can also be regarded as second generation of beneficiaries of premarital counseling by Dr. Davison. Let's hear it from Dr. Thomas, Daniel Thomas.
Good morning everyone.
Good morning.
Mine is the pleasure to be able just to share a bit about my journey and the journey of my wife as well, our lovely journey. And I just want to thank you so much, Dr. Davison, for allowing me to be able to share and to celebrate this beautiful occasion. Greetings to all our distinguished guests and to the media and everyone. It is really an honor to be able to just go down memory lane a little bit. I bring greetings also on behalf of my parents and my darling wife. My wife is 8 months pregnant, you know, and my brother and his wife, they're also. So, yeah. Yes, we have a lot of, like the Gabidons, we have evidence of happy time. Yes, praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. I'm eternally grateful to Family Life Ministries and for the work that is happening here. Counseled in terms of the premarital counseling apparatus, and they're almost going 40 years. And my wife and I just celebrated 10 years in December. Wow. Praise the Lord, praise the Lord. And then when I began to do the thinking myself, you know, my wife and I, we actually met at Arden High School in grade 9. And we were very good friends going through high school, became best friends, but still looking elsewhere. And then the Lord just said to me, Daniel, she's the one. And we were from different denominational backgrounds. And around that same time, I had just started the Love March movement as well, and we're doing a lot of work promoting marriage, promoting family as being the best for society, standing up for sexual purity, etc. And so, especially in that context of having different denominational backgrounds, it was very important for me to go through a rigorous academic, spirit-led process to determine if this is really what the Lord had wanted us to do. And so, I had fought a lot to get to the point where her family was able to say, you know, we accept you as, you know, being a potential member of this family. But I still said to the Lord, Lord, one last thing. I'm going to say to that he is the last one now, that if he does this process of premarital fit for each other, that I would take that as you serious way. And we were very great. And I think about so many different aspects, encompassing quite revelatory as well, because you know many are so counseling. I remember the first of counseling, you have priestly counseling and you have prophetic counseling. So I said, see it here now. Yeah, man, we're going to get the testing one that would bring out who we really are, what we really think, and kind of, you know, sift through the emotional haze that could be there. So we really were very happy to be able to go through that process. And it was about the 6th session or so. After after some serious sessions, like, there were times when you're about to go to the session and you're like, oh my Lord, here we go again, you know. There were some red flags that came out so that we had to recognize as potential pitfalls and areas that we had to work on. But by God's grace, at about the 6th session, Dr. Davidson gave me the wink and the nod, you know. Yeah, man, and I proposed after that. And the lessons that we learned still stick with us. There's a diagram that I will share just to paint the picture in the mind's eye of a triangle that Dr. Davidson drew. And each of the bottom angles, the two lower angles of the triangle, my wife on one side and myself on the other side, and God at the top of the triangle. You know, painting the picture that the more you draw closer to the Lord, individually, and bringing it even together, is the closer that you'll get, is the stronger that your marriage will be. That image has stuck with us, and the encouragements that we were given have empowered us for 10 years so far and continue to be very empowering, and we are determined to go all the way into eternity. We're very, very grateful for the work that has been happening here and the work contributing to the marriages across the nation. Very, very important work, and we stand as just examples of the amazing work that is taking place. We're very grateful. I want to really offer congratulations again, Dr. Davidson, and to the entire Family Life Ministries team. Keep up the great work, keep going strong, and thank you so much again for investing in marriages like mine and ours.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas. Well, you brought out the type of counseling that you get from Dr. Davidson, what he called prophetic counseling, right? It unmasks you, makes you uncomfortable, and just shows up things, but it really helps, really works. Dr. Davidson told me that there are a lot of people who come for counseling, and after the counseling, they're not going through with this thing again, right? Because after you do the unmasking, it really shows a face that's not so pretty, right? The one guy here was so peeved because after counseling, his fiancée decided to break off the engagement, and his father was encouraging him. I said, don't worry, son, there's lots of other fish in the sea. And I said, but daddy, this one use up all of the bait I had, you know? That's right. That's right. That's right. Now, our final testimonial will be given by Mr. Kevin Bailey. Mr. Bailey is a licensed counseling psychologist associated with Family Life Ministries, and he's one of the counselors who was trained to use the manual in practice. Kevin Bailey.
Thank you. Good morning, family. Good to be here. So I wasn't fortunate enough to be counseled by Dr. D. In fact, I remember meeting with the elders for 2 sessions when we were getting married. And I can't remember much what they said. Maybe some system stuff. But one of the elders said to us, Muriel and I, don't be in a rush to have children. Because when you have a child, it changes the dynamics of the marriage. And the gentleman said, the elder said, look here, both of you will be going after the same breast. No, that's true. Both of you are going after the same breast. And guess who is going to win? Well, ladies and gentlemen, apparently I took it seriously enough. 7 years before we had our son. Because I was determined that breast was going to be mine. So, however, I've had the distinguished pleasure, yes, of being an associate. In 2005, fresh from Caribbean Graduate School of Theology, and an associate here at Family Life. And so, as a counselor, one of the things we do is to prepare persons for marriage. And the significance of that, first of all, it's a privilege to be able to have a couple come in front of you. And because it is so significant, this now have like eternal consequences. Their family, the society, the country. And because I wasn't familiar with information, to know that there was a manual before they say I do, it offered structure. So I knew exactly what I was to do in every session. That's how easy it is to use the manual. It takes out all the guesswork. You just know because of the different areas. Some of the areas too that you too have to be processing as a counselor. So while I am doing this counseling session, I am benefiting from it. In fact, Mira reminded me today that we actually fill out, even though we're married for years, we went through and go through the different sections just to make sure that we're in a good way as well. A few things I'd like to say, and counselors can identify, is this business of helping the unmasking, because they come in front of you starry-eyed and love, and then when you have to look at family of origin, what's the blueprint, what are their values, and they're able to share, because you hand out the questionnaires and you say complete these 99 questions, independently, right, and do not share the information, because we want honesty, right? And then they come together and they bring in the completed form. I am able to go through it and do an asterisk, and I'm looking for where they answer differently. I'm not looking for where they agree. I'm looking for the disagreement and the different perspectives. Then I'm bringing that out in the session. And the manual is so good too, because remember, the information is there. So if you're dealing with sexuality, there's a whole section based biblically sound, undergirded by theological truths as well, and psychological orientations. So you get this all-encompassing material that you can ask specific questions. Sexuality, and that's an area that persons find it difficult to talk about, but now they're free, and you tell them confidentiality, so they relax. And you ask a person, how many times would you like to have sex? When you get married, about how many times? And the lady said, I've never had it, so I don't know how many times. I said, if you just think about you'd like to have it when you get married, and just tell me about how many times. And she might say 2 times. And I asked the husband, how many times? He said 7 times. So I said, let us add up the 2. 7 and 2 get what? 9, and you divide that by 2. You get 4.5. And he said, half a sex? I said, that's the quicker, right? No, but what it does, because we are not socialized to be free about talking about sex, the material is there, right in front of you. They're answering the question. It makes them at ease. And so they're able to get the guidance. You're talking about sexual abuse. That's a huge one. If we come across that and we're having the conversation, we may have to stop the premarital counseling and refer the individual to work and look at the rape or sexual abuse, and then to come back. Usually refer to another counselor as well. But so many areas in it, just want to say, because it's all-encompassing. You're talking about communication. That's where you learn about selective listening and pseudo-listening and surface listening, and the fact that you're listening to try and understand each other. It talks about in-laws. It talks about managing conflicts. It clarifies the values so that you know you're on the same page. It talks about friendship, and then scriptures that are important because undergirded by the Word of God. Just want to say it makes it so easy for us as counselors, and I want to recommend persons who work with couples preparing them. As the saying goes, proper preparation prevents poor performance, and that's what this material does. So thank you, Dr. D. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Kevin. That was good. Right? Kevin, I understand that that sex questions can be very tricky, you know. But there constantly this couple, and of course the counselor said, or he addressed it to the lady. I mean, how often would you want to have sex? And she said, infrequently. And the man says that one or two words. You see? Brings out a lot, brings out a lot. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are privileged to have our guest speaker, who is an ordained and accredited minister of the Jamaica Baptist Union and is one of its past presidents. He is the pastor of the Mona Circuit of Baptist churches in Kingston and is also a senior lecturer at the United Theological College of the West Indies. He is currently a member of the National Council for Reparation and is the author of the book Reading the Signs of the Times, a prophetic response to Jamaica at 60. I speak of none other than Reverend Dr. Stephen Jennings. Reverend Dr. Jennings is steeped in family life. He's married to Dion for many years and are the proud parents of 3 young adult children. And guess what? Guess what? Dr. Jennings and his wife received premarital counseling from Dr. Davison in 1995. Ladies and gentlemen, Reverend Dr. Jennings.
Thank you, Mr. Master of Ceremonies. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's now afternoon. And let me thank the Family Life Ministries in general and Dr. Davidson in particular for the invitation to be here today, just to be part of the launch. The added privilege and burden has been given to me, though, to be the guest speaker, but after all of these other distinguished speakers, I don't know if I need to say much more. But I count it a privilege to be able to share in this. Dr. Barry, Sister Bev, and myself and my wife go back a long, long, long way. In fact, even before I was married. And we have, over the years, supported each other in prayer and in ministry and in life in ways that perhaps only we know. So it would have been further for me a privilege just to support this. But as you just heard, Counselor Dr. Davidson and this book, Before They Say I Do, that blue cover edition, we actually have a copy in our house somewhere, but we still have it. Association with the book, which is what I focus on. I was married. In 1987, I became one of the pastors of the Bethel Circuit of Baptist churches in Halfway Tree and in Papine. Mona Baptist Church was the second church. And I had just left seminary and eager to learn about life and to make my contribution. And within 3 months of my being at Bethel, there was a little meeting that was taking place, what would now be called a concept meeting, between Reverend Dr. Burchett Taylor, the pastor of the church, and my co-pastor, Reverend Oliver Daly, pastor of Webster Memorial Church at the time, and Dr. Barry Davidson. And Dr. Taylor invited me, being the new kid on the block, to come to the meeting. What were we discussing? The issue, and we wrote down questions and comments. And that, my friends, was a prequel, as they now call it, for what became Before They Say I Do. Dr. Davison took his and developed it into that manual, research as he would tell. We developed ours into our own manuals for our respective meeting, which we continue to update, and of course learning from this book that has continued the path of excellence. So I was a pastor using the material from the common pool, not the identical thing, but the material, because we customized it for our congregations, for 10 years almost before I got married. And in fact, one of the reasons we went to Barry was because we not only knew who was one of the chief persons behind it, but we trusted the material and we trusted the process, because professionally we had been working with many people in this venture. So I want to say that I'm not just here to thank God for Barry, which I do regularly and Bev, but to thank God for the vision that led to this, and the fact that it continues after many years. When we went to Barry, we had options, my wife and I. After all, she had a pastor, Reverend Everett Allen. I had a pastor, Reverend Dr. Bertrand Taylor. I was a Baptist minister where I could get any of my colleagues, including Reverend Edwards, to counsel me. And my father was a Baptist minister for 60 years, at that time for nearly 40. And he was a counselor, and a good marriage counselor. He and my mom were married for 53 years before my mom passed. So I had options, but we went to Barry because we didn't want somebody who knew us well enough to take one side or the other. And even a while ago when I was driving into the yard, my wife, who apologizes, Barry, for not being here today, she wanted to be here, but she was overseas on official Jamaica government business. Should have come back last night. The flight was delayed because of the weather. So she came back at 5 o'clock this morning, so I was at the airport at 5 o'clock. But she called me and she said, listen there, make sure you tell the people what Barry did for us. So here's what I'm going to tell you. Barry not only unmasked Kevin, but he was very blunt and direct and said to us, don't fool yourself or try to fool anybody else. If you try to fool yourself, you try to fool somebody. Barry taught us the importance of being honest, of being humble, of listening, of being caring enough to do something about it. Now, can I tell you that, like every couple, we've had our ups and downs. I've had my moments when I've departed from the counsel that I received. But always there's something in my head bringing me back. Because the counseling was that important. I would leave from counseling people, say to my staff, I'm off for the evening, go for 3 more hours with Barry. And then we'll have dinner and have a meeting about the counseling we just came through. And to this day, 30 years later, we are the beneficiaries of that counsel. Thank you, Barry. Thank you for your example, Bev and Barry. So having said all of that, friends, what more can be said? I want to indicate something that was said by Daniel. Mrs. Morris, Dr. Barnett. It's from the book of Proverbs, though. You know, I'm a little preacher of the gospel, and I believe we need to ground it there. There are lots of passages in the book. Proverbs 11, verse 4, New King James says, fall. But in the most things in their head, but one of the things they had was people. And as has been said, if we don't pay attention to certain things, we can't build. If we don't pay attention to certain things, we can't build people properly. One of the things that nation is made up of many people, so there's a lot of people, so there's a multitude. The writer didn't say, says in the multitude of counselors. No, originally the context was training people for the civil service. So the idea was that the king shouldn't listen to just one person. Should listen to a number of people and pick sense from nonsense and say, okay, this is the best path. And that advice comes from their experience, their wisdom, and the context of Proverbs, their godliness. And what Family Life Ministries does well, and what Barry and his team do well in this book, is to give us advice based on experience, not just theirs, but others that they have dealt with. The wisdom they have gleaned, not just the knowledge, but the wisdom, because wisdom is different from knowledge. Knowledge is the what of a thing. Wisdom is knowing why you do what, how you do what, when you do what, to what end you do what, and in the end, doing it in a way that you don't have to be embarrassed when you do it, but that you can walk with dignity. And therefore, we need wise counselors in this time. More, not less. And so what I would want to challenge family ministry to do, Family Life Ministries is not doing it already, is to partner with churches and denominations to strengthen their counseling units. So we don't just wait for people to come to FLM. But we go to the people on the front line. You heard the statistics. I've been a marriage officer this year for 40 years. 38 years. Yes? And I can tell you that those statistics are not made up. Seriously. My early days, you'd have people come in, you give them some counsel, and in 3 weeks somebody call and say, how soon you can get married, you can get divorced again, Pastor? I realized I needed to ramp up what I was doing, so that answer would come to me that question would come to me in a longer period if it came to me at all. Because people are not in it for the long haul. It's when the first quarrel comes. You know? And so we need to train more and more people. We have many more churches in the country, but we don't necessarily have better quality counseling emanating from that church, these churches. We need help. We need help. And I would want to say to FLM, part of your mandate perhaps is just to go around, meet denominations, meet congregations, and say, look, we want to help you. Perhaps you can't take on everybody at the same time, but you say over 5 years, can we take and do half of what we have in Jamaica? And if you can train trainers to train others, it might also help. Because we need counselors. We don't just need advice. We don't just need opinion. We need people with experience. We need people with wisdom. We need people with godliness. Because again, I want to tell you, one of the reasons I went to Barry is because I could see Barry and Bev. Over time, I could see when they annoyed with each other, when they didn't know I was even looking. And I say, I like how them still cool after them annoyed. Because you're annoyed now, but next 5 seconds, say, Barry, make you fix your color. babe, let me help you with your bag. We could see that. And say, yeah, all right, cool. So as a single person, you're inspired, like me, to say, maybe we can do this too. And I want to encourage us, friends. I'm coming down, but I want to encourage us to realize just how important godly example is. What gives us the moral authority to counsel is not our degrees, our qualifications, our titles, our positions. What gives us the moral authority is how we live. It doesn't mean we get it right all the time. Sometimes we try, sometimes we fail, sometimes we fall on our face. But by grace of God, we come back up. And we try again. Because being godly means we also confess our sins, repent of them, turn to God for help, ask for forgiveness, and press on. My final thought on this, and I will sit thereafter, is this. The book of the Proverbs makes the link between the lack of counsel and the failing and the falling of a people. Ask yourself whether your country and mine is failing and falling in particular ways. We're doing well in various ways, yes? More roads, more highways, more buildings, more cell phones, falling unemployment, falling crime rate. No, we must celebrate the things. There's a lot of good things. This book is a lot of good things about, one of the good things about Jamaica. So don't curse the country. Lots of good things, and we're better than many. But the question is, in what ways are we failing? Yeah. Everybody talk about family life. But family life don't start when you get married, you know. No. Remember what the book name is? Not after they say I do, or why they say I do. Before. We should be getting this to teens. Yeah. 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 We should have this on university curriculum. Yeah, that's right. Are you with me? That's right. That's how serious this is, you know. Whether or not people are Christians or not, give them opportunity to know what it is. You study physics, you study computer science, you study dressmaking, cosmetology. Why don't you study about relationships and learn it from the person who made it in the first place? We need Ministry of Health, serious about health, if we can work with education. And I know you're serious, Dr. Williams. But if we can dial out some more, we get aid from elsewhere and we have to take their agenda. Can we work locally and say, hey, this is part of it? Can churches help to sponsor this? Instead of building another building, can we help to sponsor this and get it out? Because if we don't, our nation will fail and fall for the lack of counsel. Not opinion. Not something on your blog because you write it, it makes sense. No, but counsel that comes out of experience, that is wise, that is godly. Thank you, Brother Barry, for all you have done for all of us for so long. Sister Bev, I associate you with that. FLM, thank you. Brother Brendan, Brother Trevor, Brother Donovan, Brother Kevin, many, many others whose names we can't call. And we want to say, keep on keeping on. Only in heaven, people will know the work you did. Then you will truly be rewarded. God bless you. Thanks for listening to me.
Thank you, Reverend James. You are thankful for the vision that has continued. You gave your own testimonials of how you were impacted, you and your wife, by this ministry. And the challenge that you have thrown out to us about the need for counseling, more counselors. Counseling that is experienced, that is wise, and that is godly. And we thank you for that charge. God bless you. You know, as much we said about the counseling received, all the testimonies that we have. Ladies and gentlemen, you know, Dr. Davidson has been counseling for over 40 years. Right? It therefore means that he has counseled several hundred couples, you know. You realize that? You just work it out, multiply by 40, how much happens in a year, and you realize the amount of couples he has counseled. But hear this, 80% of these couples are still married. 80%. That is excellent. But the 20% are either separated or divorced. But when you have that sort of statistic, 80%, it means that something good and something excellent is happening because of the counseling. And as you say, Dr. Jennings, we need more and more of that in our country. Thank you, and God bless you. At this time, we are going to get a response, and I'm going to call upon Dr. Barrington Davison and Reverend Trevor Edwards to give their response at this point in time. Dr. Davison, Reverend Edwards.
Mr. Master of Ceremonies, ladies and gentlemen, I sat there and I said to myself, God, you're good. Because we truly have to give him thanks, praise, and glory. Anybody who believes they can do things by themselves, they're being stupid. We can't. There's always a dependency on the Lord. I remember when I was going off to study, Brother Clinton Webb said to me, Barry, make sure you take the Bible in one hand and the textbook in the other. And always try to keep them both. And that was good advice. I want to say that what we've achieved in this third edition has been a teamwork. I want to express my thanks and appreciation to my beloved friend and brother, Trevor. Trevor and I are very close. We're good friends. Trevor and his wife, Sharon. In fact, Stephen spoke a while ago about the matter of trying to train people. Well, Sharon, Trevor's wife, is organizing that already for us. We intend, in the month of next month, in March, to train trainers and then to have these trainers train people all across. In fact, you might not have known this, but when the second edition came out, the Seventh-day Adventist Church got us. At that time, the Governor General was in charge of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And he got us to train every single Seventh-day Adventist pastor in Jamaica, in Cayman, and in the Bahamas to do premarital counseling. Wow. And they have reached out to us again and says, hey, we want you to do this again with the third edition. So we're going to need trainers to train. If we're going to, because Seventh-day Adventists is a large group. You know. By the way, I'm not Adventist. It's a large group. And the New Testament Church of God is also reaching out to us. So we're going to need people to train. And we're so thankful for what Reverend Jennings has said, because he's really challenging a family life ministries to do something about this. This book, the third edition, involves Trevor, it involves Kathy Roberts, and it involved Donovan Cole. Trevor played a significant role. Many years ago, Trevor, along with Carol Clark and myself, started a group called Fresh Start. Fresh Start was a group to help people who were divorced, to assist them, because we were very disappointed with the church not knowing how to handle divorced individuals. They treated divorced individuals like second-class citizens, The church at the time, we felt, was shooting their wounded, which are divorced. And we were very concerned. And so Trevor, Carol, and myself got together, started Fresh Start, and this group we met at Carol's house. Carol is the lady who owns Devon House Ice Cream. We would meet at Carol's house in Stony Hill. And the group got so large that we had to find, well, you heard the statistics, right? I want to thank Mrs. Morris, really and truly, for really letting us understand what Jamaica is all about with marriage and divorce. And when I sat beside Stephen, and I said to Stephen when Ms. Morris was speaking about how many marriages, I said, Stephen, I want to believe that number is so much because of foreigners who marry here. And immediately after saying that, she concluded. And so we are in bad shape. We're in very, very bad shape. And so Trevor, we met and started Fresh Start. And after Fresh Start grew, we had to move it to this, where we're now having it in this conference center. And I really want to take this opportunity to say thanks to Trevor. Trevor, and who later met his wife, who was a Fresh Starter, and both of them two Fresh Starters end up getting married, and they really took Fresh Start to another level. And I want to take this opportunity, Trevor, to express my thanks and appreciation to you, because the tremendous work yourself and Sharon has done with Fresh Start is just unbelievable. And as a result, the third edition has taken a lot of stuff from the work of Fresh Start to really help us to really do an effective job with people who are divorced and want to get married again. Fresh Start has done an awesome job in helping people to really find themselves, take a look at themselves, find out why. Because here's what we discovered was happening. We would see somebody divorced, and they, without getting any counseling, they get married, and they get divorced again. And then we found a particular case where they got divorced again. There's 3 divorces. And when we checked it out, we found that the reason for divorce 1 was the same reason for divorce 2, was the same reason for divorce 3. Therefore, we need to do something about that. And Trevor and the Fresh Start group has helped us to know how to handle that, and as a result, it has been included in the manual. Let me quickly say this before I hand over to Trevor. Beverly and myself got married in 1972. We migrated to the United States in 75. I went up first, and then Beverly and our eldest child, who was then about 6 months, came up in 1976. And so we got married in 72. In 76, we were living in Chicago. In 1977, our marriage went into trouble, got into serious trouble, so bad that we were both talking to lawyers. We were talking about divorce. I was very convinced that divorce was the answer. Beverly wasn't as convinced, but she later became convinced. We were both convinced that divorce was the solution to our problem. And so we were talking divorce. A friend suggested to us that we seek help. And so we sought help. We sought help somewhere in 1977. And the help we got, a counselor who became a very good friend and who was the one who assisted and helped to get CJST developing its counseling psych program. The counselor asked us a very simple question, and this was the question he asked. He said to us, tell me about your premarital counseling. And Beverly laughed. And I know why she laughed, because there was not much to tell. We then told the counselor that our premarital counseling was, the counselor asked us 2 questions. Are you a Christian? Do you love each other? And then he gave us a sermon, and that was our premarital counseling. Yeah. And so the counselor who then asked us a question, he said to us, that's your problem. Your problem is that you are like somebody who has been asked to fly a plane but nobody taught you how to do so. And so your plane is crashing. In fact, it's not only crashing, it hasn't left, it's still on the runway. And he said to us, you really need to understand that what is missing is that you are not properly prepared. He helped us. He did for us what should have been done in premarital. And when I left Chicago after completing my first degree and went on to California to grad school, I made a pledge to God. I said, God, I would like you to help me to develop a premarital counseling program so nobody will experience what we, Beverly and I, just experienced. And it was a commitment I made to God. And so regardless of what else I was going to be studying in my master's, in my doctorate, I knew that I wanted to develop. And so I left and went to California in 1978 to start the program in psychology at Fuller Graduate School of Psychology. And I decided that I wanted to develop this. And so I came back to Jamaica somewhere about 1979 to start research, to start working. And so I met with I met with judges, I met with pastors, I met with people who were divorced, I met with a number of people. And from that meeting, I was able to develop a questionnaire. And that questionnaire was what we started to use in developing premarital counseling, so that by 1980, even before I graduated with my master's, we were already starting to use. We used it with Sam, and then we used it with Christine and Ethan, and then we started to use it until 1981, when we came back and started Family Life Ministries in 82, 83, and then we started to even work even harder in trying to develop. So what we had going in those days was just a questionnaire, and the questionnaires kept changing and improving. And the first manual did not come until 1992, and this is what it looked like. And then we realized that this manual was where we were now starting from. 1992, this came about. And this is after working with a lot of people, because all we had then was questionnaires that we kept improving and kept changing and kept improving and kept changing. And then, as Stephen mentioned to you, we had this meeting with Virgil and Oliver, and then out of it I decided that we're going to work on a manual so that it's going to be more than just training people from a questionnaire. And then what this manual did, in this manual we looked at we use this manual to develop the whole concept of unmasking. There's a man, a psychiatrist named Sidney Gerard, who suggests that before people get married, they're wearing a mask. And then after they get married, the real male said, hey, I didn't bargain for you, I bargained for the female mask. And the real female said, I didn't bargain for you either, I bargained for the male mask. And so what we now had to learn to do is help people to unmask people in premarital counseling. And so this first edition really spent a tremendous amount of time, a lot of time was spent in to help you to know how to unmask. And in dealing with unmasking, I think with a questionnaire then that was not very long. Then came the second edition. This was 1992, this now was 1997. By then we were doing a lot of premarital counseling. And with this second edition, what we did expand on was the whole matter of family of origin. That was very, very important. We recognized that when people spoke about family of origin, they primarily talk about the family structure, such as nuclear family, individualistic family. They spoke of single parent rather family. They spoke about extended family, blended family. And then what we discovered, that within family forms were family types. That you had a traditional, that you had a enmeshed, you had an individualistic, and you had a healthy. And so we wanted people to understand their family type, so that in understanding their family origin from the family type, from their family of origin, it better prepared them to have a healthier family of procreation. Because when you get married, you're coming from a family of origin to now create a family of procreation. And we wanted to make sure that your family of procreation is going to be much healthier than your family of origin was. And so this was what this second manual really helped folks to do. It also helped us to identify the stages in marriage. The first stage is the honeymoon. The second stage is the adjustment stage. The next stage is the reality stage, because you realize that love doesn't pay bills, money does. And that's the reality stage. You also realize that children are not babies are not dollies. So we have to help people to navigate through these stages. And then from the reality stage comes the conflict stage. How do you manage conflict? And then from the conflict stage comes the stress stage, and there are two responses to stress, fight or flight. And so we have to help people to know how to navigate. And this is what we tried to do in this one. And then came this final one, in which I drew now from I had to get help now. So we turned to Kathy Roberts. It says, Kathy, you have been working a lot with women. You have been working a lot with premarital counseling with various people. You have been a single woman. A lot of people getting married are getting married much older. There's so much you know, Kathy. There's so much you have learned. We want you to team up with us and join in producing this third edition. So we brought in Kathy. Then we turned to Donovan Cole. Donovan, in my mind, is one of the best premarital counselors. I believe Donovan is one of the best. And Donovan is somebody who I always refer people after. And so we would turn to Donovan and say, Donovan, you have been the person who have teamed up with me over the years to train people to do premarital counseling. I want you, Donovan, to be part of this team. And then we turned to Trevor and we said, Trevor, there's absolutely nobody who's as knowledgeable than you in dealing with folks who are divorced and want to marry again. Fresh Start has done such an awesome job, Trevor. We need you to team up with us. And so Trevor, Kathy, Donovan, and myself got together, and as a result of that synergy, we have this third edition. And so,
Thank you very much, Barry.
Can I just say one quick thing? Sorry. Another thing that has been helpful is that we did a research. When I taught at UWI for 12 years in the clinical psych program, I taught family therapy to the clinical psych student, to there's masters in social work, and also nurses working on their master. And while at UWI, we did a research, we did a survey. We wanted to know what makes marriages last in the Caribbean. And we surveyed people in Trinidad, Barbados, and Jamaica. We surveyed individuals who had been married between 45 and 65 years. That was the group we looked at. In Trinidad, Barbados, and the students from Trinidad did it, some from Barbados. And from that, we found 10 key things that makes marriages last. And I got together with Dr. Faith Linton and produced this book. This book is a book I'd like to recommend you. It's been sold at Family Life Ministries. It's a book on love, sex, and marriage. And in this book, we were able to share the findings of this research, which tells us about what makes marriages last in the Caribbean, having done this survey with people who had been married between 45 and 65 years. That information also influenced the third edition.
Thank you very much, Barry. I have been a pastor for over 43 years, or 43 years, I would say, and have used the previous edition of Before They Say I Do in my ministry for most of those years. I found the material then very useful and very effective in providing a guide to helping couples to prepare for marriage. I was delighted when I was invited by Dr. D to be a part of the rewriting of the 3rd edition of the manual and questionnaire. Even more so, because being a regular user of the material, I've been adding material, especially when I counsel persons who are remarried. That takes me to my particular contribution to the project. And after 28 years, about 28 years ago, I experienced marital loss. This was unexpected and devastating for me, as I did not see this coming. There were many outcomes from that experience as I struggled with and grieved the loss of my marriage. Dr. Davidson was very helpful in this process. In my struggles and coming to terms with the experience, I felt that the Lord was still with me and had not abandoned me for failing in my marriage. Hence, I wanted to make sense and meaning of the pain. And part of that process was to help other persons going through marital loss and divorce, to recover and experience healing. The tradition or models I had in my denomination and what I observe with other persons is that when you experience marital loss or divorce, you either move to another profession or you migrate. For me, it was neither of those. As I said, I considered how could I make sense of my pain and help other people with their pain of marital loss. So I approached Barry and shared my desire and concern with him. And he indicated interest immediately and also stated that there was someone who was working with him or who he was working with who had a similar interest. And we agreed that we would make this happen. And he told you of the beginning of Fresh Start. He rounded up the first candidates and the other persons he introduced me to be part of the first meeting we had. In fact, as he said, we met in our home. There began the Fresh Start Recovery Support Group for separated and divorced persons. May I say that I've been directing the group since April 2000. In fact, Barry was the leader of the first meeting because I was not present for the first meeting and have continued to direct the group ever since. And my wife, who was one of the first set of candidates, is now co-director. Dr. D was instrumental in preparing us for remarriage. And we couldn't have wanted better because there are some issues that came out of that preparation that it is only the skill and experience of a master counselor like Dr. Davidson that could have identified those particular issues. So the current edition of Before They Say I Do has benefited immensely from the Fresh Start experience. For as we have facilitated the healing and recovery of persons going through separation and divorce, we have gained many insights. I've been including many of these in my premarital and pastoral counseling practice and ministry. And you now have an opportunity to share and make a difference with this book. We have gained insight from the level of personal experience, which cannot be legislated or you can't pronounce on these. It's more than statistics. It is when you hear people who have gone through pain in their life and stress and real frustration, then you understand what we are talking about. Let me give an example. We, in Fresh Start, and Fresh Start is a nurturing space, a confidential space. One of the things we say about Fresh Start is that when you come to a meeting, you can tell anybody that you have been to a support group, and you can share your experience with anybody you want to share with. But you cannot, and you dare not, tell anybody else who you have seen in that group. That's how we maintain confidentiality. And we say this at every meeting, at the beginning of the meeting, and at the end of the meeting. And it's interesting, sometimes you're out and somebody who know mutual persons, and they say, where you know each other from? I say, oh, well, sometimes we hang out together. but nothing more than that. They're not asking any question, we're not divulging where we hang out or what we do when we hang out. That's our business. And if an individual wants to share with somebody else, that's their problem. That's their issue. And very often, we have had persons who have invited other persons to Fresh Start. And that's how we have maintained that safe space. And all the persons who have been to Fresh Start have indicated that they find this a safe space where they can share their stories. And it's not unusual sometimes somebody starts sharing a story and you can say under your breath, I've been there, done that. You know exactly what they're talking about. And they feel relieved, they feel unburdened, they feel liberated, they feel refreshed when they hear that somebody else has gone through that experience and that they're not the only one grieving marital loss. In that nurturing space, you hear about the underbelly of marital loss, divorce. You hear about guilt, shame, loneliness, legal issues, children caught in the middle, struggles with ex, indifference and hostility and support. Indifference and hostility and support from the church. You hear about all of that. It's a space, as I indicated, where persons grow and heal and love themselves again and continue to receive full support from one another. I just want to share one little reflection that came from Fresh Starter. I no longer dwell on the loss of my marriage or what I've been through for about 2 years now. The emotional pain from the end of my marriage has dissipated. I no longer feel the need to discuss the injustices of abandonment experienced to process my feelings. Despite the challenges of my divorce settlement, I feel all the knowledge built up over the 5 years between Fresh Start and personal investment in reading about healthy adulting has served me well to understand that divorce is just a part of life for some people. It's not the end of the world. The marriage didn't work out, even after so many years of good effort, and that's okay. I want to say that as a result of that experience, Barry indicated that much of what you read in the questionnaire and in the manual on religion and other parts of the manual will discover some of the particular insights, some of the experiences, and some of the theological reflection that have come out of the Fresh Start experience. And so I feel assured that as you read this material and use it, that you will make better premarital persons. You will prepare them for marriages to be more sustainable and long-lasting. One of the things we say in premarital counseling is that premarital counseling offers no guarantee for a successful marriage. What it does is offers you manageable tools to be able to negotiate that space. And that's what we have been doing. And so I thank God for the opportunity and commend this material to you and ask that you'll use it to contribute to the healing of many persons who have gone through marital loss. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Thank you, Reverend Edwards. Bachelors, right? Yes. And I was older and a faster runner. So I got married in 1969 and he got married in 1972. That this year make you what, 53? And make me 56, right? But as I listened to Barry, I shook my head. The premarital counseling that he got was exactly the premarital counseling I got at church, right? And we thank God, Dawn and I, for the intervention of counseling that saved our marriage. And you have the same testimony, Barry. Thank God for counseling intervention. And from that own experience, you drew a career, a vision, and committed your life to premarital counseling. It's what Reverend Jennings say, you got the vision, and you worked and followed that vision. And as you say, Pastor Jennings, it must be an ongoing vision. And from what I just heard, this is indeed an ongoing vision that we pray will spread throughout the length and breadth of this country. And I just put in a little thing here that the books are going to be at the front desk, so you probably should not leave here without getting that third edition. Thank you, gentlemen. At this time, we are going to have vote of thanks, and I'm going to call upon Ms. Kathleen Roberts and Dr. Joan Pinkney to give the vote of thanks. Let's give them a hand. They are the channels of this function.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am sure, I am sure that you will agree with me that we have had a delightful morning into afternoon. Ooh. I'm not doing so well in this contractors. Thank you. Yes. Did you hear what I just said? Yes. Let me say it again. I'm just saying that I think we have had a delightful morning into afternoon. And we are really pleased, all of us who are here, that we have been a part of this celebration, sending this another seminal work, we call it, that will impact the lives of generations to come, if the Lord tarries. And so, hand over to Joan for the
I
next.
agree with you, Kathy. Yes, we've had a good time together, and we have the pleasure of expressing appreciation to those persons who have come to share us, and as our parents would say, thanks, is that it? Or thank you. So we want to express our appreciation, and this is usually a kind of little boring part of the ceremony, so we want to spice it up a little bit. And so, but first of all, we want to say thanks to Almighty God. Can we give him a round of applause? He is indeed the author and finisher. He is the one who gave the insight and continues to give insight to all persons who have participated and continue to participate in this awesome venture. And so we really give all the accolades to God because he has been good. What is important is that his purpose is accomplished and all the glory is given to him. We want to start by saying thanks to Mrs. Beverly Davidson. We thank you not just by being here today, but being the post. And when you stand beside your husband, there's the long and the short of it. But we are happy that you being shorter, you are no less stronger. And so we thank you so much for supporting him in all that he has done. And we know that he's a strong man, but we know exactly where the outer inner strength is coming from. So thank you so much for being here.
So suppose we just break tradition a little bit and start at what would usually be the end of the thank you list. So we want to start by thanking the ladies who decorated this room. I'm sure you do it.
Mrs. Shauna Scott Williams, she's a member of staff, and where is she? She has stepped away, and she showed her talent in various ways when we have our little get-togethers. And this is more than just someone who is just trying a thing. She has done absolutely well. And we thank the ladies who served so well as ushers. Yes. Members of our staff. Then, of course, thanks to you, our distinguished audience, who have been so warmly responsive throughout the morning. We heard the laughter and the clapping and so on. So you have been
diligent, and we hope that this will continue. As you leave here, you'll be buying the books and disseminating to all the constituencies. The launch would really not have been the same if you weren't here. It would have been pointless for us up here to be talking to ourselves. So, thank you very much.
We want to express appreciation, deep appreciation, to Professor Brendan Bain. I can tell you that Dr. Donovan, Reverend Donovan Cole, should have been the one to offer prayer, but he called to say he's not feeling well. And so, you know, the Word of God says don't lay hand on persons suddenly, but we did that. And of course, the gentleman who he is and the man of God who he is, he never gave up an opportunity to do something for the Lord. He offered prayer, and so we thank you. We want to also thank all the persons who represented the various agencies. Oh, we have Shoshana who has just come. We wanted to see her, and she should take bookings for decorations through me. Vice President, but we also wear several hats at the Jamaica Theological Seminary and several hat from Damsack in this event for us today. Thank you so much for being here. Coming, the minister, I'm sure if he came, and so we thank we want to express our deep appreciation to Dr. Jennings. Just give it real. Just tell it. So much for sharing as you did, and may God the chief conceptualizer and writer. If I were your mother, I would say I'm so proud of you. But I'm so very happy to be working along with you, Dr. Davidson, let alone to express the appreciation for the kind of quality work that you continue to give. There's absolutely no question. Other contributors, Reverend Trevor, Edwards, Reverend Donovan Cole, and Miss Kathy Roberts, who were part of the team that put this book together. We say thank you for your efforts. We know that there are several nights, several days, several hours spent backing and forthing, but guess what? It was worth it all. And we say thank you for your efforts.
Yes, it really was worth it all, and I give thanks to my colleagues, the early mornings and the late nights, and as you said, the backing and forthing. Lots of that went on over quite a number of years, so it wasn't just a couple of months. So it was really worth it though. Now we want to publicly thank some other collaborators. Firstly, Reverend Dr. Burchell Taylor, who wrote the foreword for the previous edition and graciously consented to do the same for this one. In his foreword, he has pointed to some of the global socio-cultural changes that influenced the decision to update the previous edition. Thanks for your words of affirmation, Dr. Taylor. I believe he has joined us online, and we express our appreciation to you, sir. Secondly, to the Reverend Dr. Sam Bassel, who you heard about before, who wrote the preface. allow me to just share a few words from his preface, just to give you a little idea of some of the content of the work. I know you heard a bit about it before, but just allow me to just, if you look at the back of the book if you have one, it says this manual gives reliable information, teaches needed skills, and introduces tested practical approaches to the preparation of couples to have the best chance of enjoying healthy marriages. Yes, so thank you, Dr. Basil. Then we would like to mention Mr. Robert Harris, our esteemed publisher. I don't see him in the room, so I believe he's probably joined us online as well. He's our publisher and book designer. The lovely cover design that you see there on that book and the modern features introduced to the text are his works of art. So take a bow, Mr. Harris. Job well done. Then thanks to our printers. Both are located right here in Jamaica. The Pear Tree Press for the manual and Digital Solutions Imaging Graphics Limited for the questionnaire. And we must pause to express deep appreciation to Mr. Sam Cooper of Digital Solutions for his generosity with repeated reprints of the questionnaire over the years. We expressed thanks to Dr. Brendan Bain before about the prayer that he offered, and now I would like to just tell you thanks again, Dr. Bain, Professor Bain. Your revision of the information from the book Intended for Pleasure, written by Ed and Gay Weed, resulted in Chapter 7 on birth control methods, providing a very comprehensive review of their advantages and disadvantages in the previous edition. These were really instructive and well appreciated by both counselors and clients. This chapter has been expanded in the 3rd edition by obstetrician gynecologist Dr. Orville Morgan, who willingly came on board to provide some updates. Not sure if Dr. Morgan is present in the room. If not, again, he may be online. And so thank you, Dr. Morgan. Then I go to Mr. John Bailey, a former board member of Family Life Ministry and longtime friend who has supported us in numerous ways over the years. True to form, this time, without his substantial input, there would have been no 3rd edition. So thank you again, Mr. Bailey. Then there's Mrs. Dan Daly McClure of the firm Foga Daly, attorneys at law. As some of you may know, this is the leading company handling copyright matters in the Caribbean region. Thanks, Mrs. Daly, for assisting us in this crucial area of this project. And I must express thanks to Mrs. Grace Davis. I believe I saw her somewhere here. Grace, please raise your hand. Please stand so that we can see you. At the very outset of the project, she ensured that we had the original 2nd edition text format for us to continue to revise very easy, facilitated by you, Grace, and we thank you very much. Then I come home now to us here at Family Life Ministries, and I want you to give a big round of applause to this lady who is standing to my right, our hard-working and dedicated operations manager. And of course, every member of the office staff, some of them are smiling at me now, who played any role at all in preparing for this effort. Our caretaker, our cleaner, all of you who have contributed to our comfort this afternoon. I want to just thank all of you who may have prayed for us somewhere along the line over the years. We appreciated your prayerful support. And I want to just include, finally now, the wives of the gentleman who wrote this book, Mrs. Lorraine Cole, and Dr. Sharon Earl Edwards. We had some very early morning before breakfast meetings, and Mrs. Davidson, of course, is included in that, preparing the tea and the fruits and so forth while we are talking. And at the breakfast break, they will be well taken care of. And of course, the prayer and support. Otherwise, we know that men, as one of my pastors said some years ago, have a good forgettery. So they don't remember sometimes the times of the meetings or which day it is and so on. So the ladies, their wives, came to the rescue all the time to say, yes, you have a meeting and this is the time and so on. So thank you, ladies. Mrs. Davidson, on behalf of the other ladies. Yes.
It was very heartening to hear the now generation speak of the information and the usage of the questionnaire. I'm speaking of Dr. Daniel Thomas, that his parents were guided, but he came and got his own dose along with his brother. And he spoke so freely and so ably about the information and how much that has helped him. I want to tell you thanks so much for representing your generation. And that gives us this kind of feeling that there is hope. And last but by no means least, we want to thank, if ever you want to book it, you have to come through me. The Master of Ceremony. He is it. Doesn't get any better than him. I want to thank you. Can you imagine him at a wedding ceremony? Let's just stretch our hand and say, bless him, Lord. I want to thank you, sir, for being who you are, for sharing the way you have, for putting and causing us to really have a good time. Apart from celebrating this book and all that it brings with it, but also just bringing everything together and really making this occasion such a special one. Thank you so much for being here. And so we take our leave. We again say thanks to Almighty God for what He has done, and we give Him all the praise, the honor, and the glory. Thank you.
Ms. Roberts and Dr. Pigmid, may I say thank you for thanking us. But I want to thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You have been a very good audience. You have been patient, you have been attentive, you have been effervescent, and you laughed at all the carnage jokes. Again, thanks for coming. As I said in my opening remarks, you are not only attendees, but a community of people who share a common desire to see successful marriages. Right. So it would be good if you couldn't do a little run away. There are refreshments at the back. So please engage the author and connect with your fellow community members. And thanks again for coming. God bless you. Don't forget.
Pleasure, man. Good. Yeah.